Hey, everybody. Hope you're well. This information comes from a source who uh, didn't want to did not want to go on live and talk with me about this before the public for concern of revealing who his sources may be. But it goes basically like this: the source was at a facility and learned through conversation that with the number of people who are involved in what would be the boots on the ground implementation of what I'm about to explain to you, that the California Attorney General, Xavier Becerra, is part of a plan, and the source says that the Attorney General has a back channel, as it was described, to the White House, but is not the only Attorney General who has this, to form a plan that would allow just judges to basically do away with common due process if a person were caught looting or committing acts of vandalism. And the reason for this stemmed from an overall concern by local authorities that if something weren't done, they were going to be overran with cases of looting and vandalism and other crimes. So my source is 100% certain this plan is in process of being formed, 100%. And this person who actually served our country is said that he was very much shaking because they never thought that the United States would get to this point. When I heard about it, I immediately went back to the events after 9/11 that gave rise to the Patriot Act and also created the TSA, the Transportation Services Administration. And that would, what is being discussed now, would, if indeed it did happen, make the Patriot Act look like a Sunday barbecue. It would lead to a relaxing of civil liberties on a larger scale. Now, you would say, why do I say larger scale if I mention California? And it's because, very simply, my source explains that not only is the California Attorney General involved in this, but Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York. And now I have not had the occasion to call either office to confirm this, but I will say this isn't something that this just happened. I was just given this information. This isn't something that either office is going to say, oh, by the way, yes, we're absolutely doing this. Okay. Um, because it's controversial. But it's something that we determined you really need to be aware of, that this discussion is happening before it leads to policy that impacts our lives in the way that this would. Um, so I know there's been talk of having a national lockout, like, or lock in, as is done in a number of different states and, of course, in California, like most notably. And then the objective is to avoid a situation like states and, of course, in California, like most notably. And then the objective is to avoid a situation like which has unfolded in Italy with spread of the coronavirus COVID-19 over there. But it is unfortunate that it seems we don't have an effort to put our monies toward two things: the immediate resuscitation of the economy, like without forgetting relaxing political ideology and adopting a just do it philosophy. Just do it. Let me give an example as a digression. We have the ability to print money to pay for hyper expensive operations, of which this would be. Now, the common expectation of printing money on that scale is to expect inflation. But we were in a situation very much like this from that perspective during World War II. And what we did was we enacted price controls. So we can enact price controls to stave off inflation and then quite literally amortize the repayment of the debt over a longer period, knowing full well that what monies we're injecting into the economy will realize the type of economic growth which will allow us to repay that debt over time. If we have price controls, we can stave off inflation in the near term. And then as the economy cools, we can then relax the price controls over a period of years, and then get and realize a return to normalcy, such that we can allow the economy to operate in a more quote natural way, if there is such a thing. I don't believe economies really operate naturally, because economies are a man or person made thing. All right, they don't grow on economies don't grow on trees. Okay, um, they're mathematical creations by us. But I digress. Uh, I thought we would do that, right? And maybe we still will. But from what I was just told, I just got off the phone with my source. This plan to relax civil liberties is very serious. And it it's something I hope doesn't happen. And I certainly hope we don't get to a point where it's implemented. It is one thing to plan. And the planning aspect of this news, of that, I'm 100% certain my source is 100% accurate, and my source is 100% backing this, period, end of story. But implementing such a plan does not necessarily mean, forming such a plan does not necessarily mean the plan will be implemented. Particularly if cooler heads prevail, we have an alternative approach um, that allows us to maintain our civil liberties, enjoy some semblance of the America that we've always known, and then work on getting ourselves out of this situation as quickly as possible. As quickly as possible. But the simple fact that, according to my source, this is a very much bipartisan effort with two Democratic attorneys general of California and New York, respectively, involved in this with the Republican White House. The simple fact that we have that relationship tells you that collectively these government organizations are preparing for the worst possible formations of undesirable behavior in this society. Okay. So I'll be back with the normal news before but given where we are at, this news is of utmost importance. Please subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube, bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com, and please pray that we get out of this situation as soon as possible. God bless you.